Lucas Tejedor is a young, passionate activist that's worked on a number of innovative projects over the years aimed at helping the environment. He loves learning and is self-taught in a variety of diverse subjects, from neurology and psychology to mathematics and design. In November 2022, he received a Global Youth Award for his contribution to environmental innovation, and he's joining me to tell us more. Welcome, Lucas.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Lucas, let's get straight into it. You are absolutely passionate about environmental innovation, and you've created an AI capable of identifying oil leaks to help avoid environmental disasters. What can you tell us about that?
Well, there are many factors about it because actually this project wasn't meant to be that at all. Like I started with AI and I never thought I would end up developing an AI that could detect oil leaks, right? So this was a complete surprise for me as well. And basically, I will first put a glimpse about how it works, and then I will move on to the story about how I developed it and why I did it. So, because it's pretty fun to hear. Well, so it basically is an artificial intelligence that is able to detect oil leaks by looking at images. So basically, what I did is I created a dataset of numerous pipelines with leaks, right? But we did it ourselves, right? In the Federal Center of Technology here in Brazil, where I study. So we did it with like hundreds of pipes. And then we did a little bit of image processing, which is basically like, well, you have an image, but one image is not enough for the artificial intelligence to learn the pattern behind the image. So what we did was we got these images and we multiplied those images by applying certain functions that would like rotate the image or put a little bit of brightness. And with those new images, we then fed it to an artificial intelligence that we prototyped, which is an exception. It is a really technical thing, but it is a type of neural network that has ideas of residual layers, which are basically, well, think about when you are studying, right? When you study, you need to remember some things about what you already studied to learn new things, like in mathematics. You can't learn about multiplication without knowing addition. But you also need to have some room for adaptation, right? You can't just, oh, I will always apply addition here. No, you must be open for new ideas, and that's exactly what this architecture does, right? It introduced, in many ways, a new concept of residual network, which is you pick the part of what you learned and you combine with new things you learned. And this is really good because of the depth, right? Because the images are, the main thing about the images are the depth, right? Because, well, the drone will be flying over the pipelines, and then the depth will be really important for detection of the leaks. And basically, it does detect if there is a leak or it doesn't. Well, we tested it on some pipes at the Federal Center of Technology. Unfortunately, we couldn't test on real pipelines because the oil companies here in Brazil and I think elsewhere as well are not really permissive of doing these kinds of tests. But we tried to simulate as well as we could, and we published an article about technology in the Brazilian Symposium of Telecommunications. Well, now talking about the story about that, yeah? Because the thing is, this idea emerged from another project, which we are going to talk about, which is the fire detection device, right? So basically, I was developing this other project when I was suddenly hit with some news, right? About, I think was in the US, it was a pipeline that had a leak and some gasoline was accumulating, and none of the systems that already exist couldn't detect it, right? So I thought, well, this is really bad. And there are many cases that go unreported, so we don't even know how many of those leaks are actually occurring, and they are not too costly for the companies because these leaks usually don't leak that much, right? So they can sometimes go and let it just leak. But what actually can happen, they can be sued, right, and for environmental rights. But the thing is, the systems that already existed couldn't do it. So I thought, well, I'm already doing these other projects with AI, detecting using images, using image processing. So I like, well, this is really cool. I can apply the same techniques to this new project, and that's exactly what I did. I started to apply. So of course I had to do some adaptations, but I already knew the lines of what I had to do to make the project work. So it was pretty fun to do, right? And yeah, now we are presenting, and we will present this project at the biggest fair, biggest scientific fair here in Latin America for people in high school. So this is a really big contest.
Oh, and I can see how excited you are about it, which is brilliant. And so you've already touched on the other projects, which I want to talk to you about. I mean, that in itself, you know, the being able to detect the oil leaks is hugely impressive. But you also created an automated drone that uses artificial intelligence to help detect forest fires in the Amazon rainforest, which is really amazing. So how does that work? I think you said it works in a similar way, but does it work in the same way?
Well, I think the explanation of the other one is pretty much valid at a high level. Of course, if we go in a little bit more of depth, we will see some differences. For example, in fire, you have a high prevalence of some colors, and in oil, we have high prevalence of other colors. So I adjusted for that. For example, uh, in the image processing, which is the step before we feed the images to the neural network, we try to extract some meaningful features so the artificial intelligence can learn, right? And one of the things that I attribute more weight to is the color of the image. So if it has more grades of red, it probably can mean that it has more fire, you know? Or if it has patterns of white, as like in smoke, or gray, it probably means that it could be happening something. And that's the main difference, right? We attribute weight to different things, and of course the architecture is different as well. Yeah, so basically, in this project was the first one I did actually working to help the environment with artificial intelligence, right? Because in 2019 I tried to open my company. I tried to open a company about social media. Like, I think that has nothing to do here, but I started to learn about artificial intelligence in 2019. And then in 2020, a teacher in the Federal Center of Technology approached me and told me about the problems about he told me about the problems in the Amazon rainforest, right? So he showed me graphs and data, and I was like, oh my God, this is happening here in my country, and no one goes doing anything. Like, this is happening. This is already happening for years now, right? If you go and see the data, you will see like the fires just don't stop. There is not a single year that doesn't have like an astronomical number of fires. So I looked at this and I thought, well, I need to do something, right? Because if I just let this happen, not only my country will be prejudiced, right? Because the Amazon rainforest is really important for the climate here in South America, but not only for South America. It is important for the whole world, right? It is the biggest rainforest in the entire world. It has like a really big number of different species, and we're just burning them. So like, we need to do something about it. So I started to use the knowledge I was learning in 2019 to build this artificial intelligence. And in 2020, I developed the first prototype. Of course, it was not nearly as good as it is today. And like, when I saw the prototype working, I was like, yeah, this is not going to work. Like, really. And I thought many times, like, oh, I might as well give up. And the pandemic struck me as well. So I was like, here, home, alone, because I live also with my grandmother, right, and my grandfather. So like I really took seriously social isolation. I like was on my room every day. I did not leave at all. So this really affected me mentally, right? But I kept working. But in a somewhat, I, I will say it, like I was a little bit crazy. I would like, yeah, this is true. I would like wake up, start coding, and then I would do like a little bit of exercise here in my room because I couldn't stand just like keep hearing code eternally. So I did a little bit of exercise, and then I coded until I would go to bed because the classes did not happen online, right, here in Brazil,
Yeah.
2020, because many people didn't have access to the online
Yeah.
apparatus to study.
Wow. Wow. And Lucas, that's amazing. That's amazing that you were able to have that time to really focus on it, because you've been involved in a number of other tech projects, if I understand correctly, and those
Exactly.
are also related to the environment. So tell us a little bit about the other projects that you've been working on as well.
Well, there are many projects, like
Yeah.
too many to tell them all, but there's one that I'm particularly proud of, which is a platform that connects people that have uh, broken electronics with people who know how to recycle these electronics. Here in Brazil, we have a big problem. Like I think most countries have this problem, but I'm not sure. Uh, that most electronics don't get recycled, but they have huge potential to be recycled. For example, there is gold in some electronics that could be recycled. And here in Brazil, it's not different. We have a big problem in this regard. And basically, what I did is I built a platform first to the Federal Center of Technology, and what they would do is pretty simple. They would just post what electronics had broken in the institution, and other cooperatives could like go to the website and see like, oh, I would like to pick this and recycle. I would like this. I would like that. Because a huge problem is that the waste here in Brazil gets thrown together, right? You like imagine you are a cooperative, and then you go to pick out the electronics that you know how to recycle, and you go there and you can't find them, right? Because they get mixed with the other, uh, with the other. I lost a little bit of my line of thought here. Um, it I it, like they lost. They can't find the what they are searching for, right? So with the platform, we can increase the efficiency of their work, and this really helps them to actually get more work done, right? And here in Brazil, we have a massive unemployment problem, and this can somewhat help. Of course, this is not ideal, but when you recycle materials, usually you get some money for it, and
Yeah.
here in Brazil is not different. So yeah, this is one of the projects.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And again, saving things from landfill, giving people access to opportunities where they can do the recycling and upcycling and all of that stuff themselves.
Exactly.
And like you said, creating jobs. So
That's
that's
the
absolutely
goal.
brilliant. I mean, amazing. These projects you are working on are really, really incredible. Alongside that, I know that you really love to learn. You talked a bit about being self-taught, and I hear you're currently applying to study in the US. So
Exactly.
what is it you're planning to study in the US then, and why have you chosen to go there?
Many people get surprised by what I will say, but I probably will go there to study economics and data science, right? And mainly because I believe I already have enough technological baggage to build apps and things like that to help solve problems, but also because I really think that you don't only need to know how to build things, you need to know how to think about these problems so I can actually build the best solution for the problem, right? Because you can build an infinite number of things, and many of those will not be useful. So I need to really concentrate my work in what is more effective, in what will create the biggest impact. And I would love to just go to the US and learn how to code and just do it, and yeah, that's it. But no, I really think that I have a purpose, right?
Yeah.
And to fulfill it, I need to really go in depth about what I'm doing and how I can do it in the most effective way possible. Because, well, I can build a drone, for example, let's say, this is not the case here, but let's say I build a drone, it's perfect, it works 100% of the time, but when I go there, they say they already solved the problem, which is not the case, right? But let's say I did it.
Yeah.
It would be a huge waste of time. It would be a huge waste of effort that could be employed in a better way to really help the environment in a more effective way.
Great, beautiful, really, really beautiful. I mean, you're already doing so much, so having that extra knowledge and being in a place where you've got access to more opportunities, I guess, is going to be really, really amazing for you.
Exactly.
And so I guess, you know, a question that I want to ask you then, because I know your focus is so much on the environment. If you could change one thing in the world that you thought would leave a lasting impact, what would that be and why?
That's a really good question. And it's a really hard question to answer because there are many things that should be changed. And I really believe that we live in a multifactorial world, right? And it's pretty obvious, right? If you have, for example, a country with, let's say, famine, famine problems, and they also have, let's say, an educational problem. So they have a famine problem and an educational problem. The thing is, these problems will cause each other, and they will also cause other problems. Well, if you are hungry, you will not learn as well. And if you are not learning, you will probably not get a high income job to get out of poverty. So all those things together create a negative cycle loop, right? That really makes it hard for people at all ages in all countries to lift up and start to living good lives and using their lives to contribute to the world as well. And for that reason, I think if this is happening, we need to stop it by giving a complete solution, right? Because if we only put a really great educational system, well, if the children are hungry, they will not be able to learn as well. So we must give them, the educational system, but with food, with security, like to create an environment so that people can actually lift up from poverty, right? So I really think I would describe this in this way. In school, think about, I think this is a good example. In a school that has food security and people can go there and they will be able to study for like 2 to 3 years, and they will also get support after they leave the school, so they can actually find a way to apply the knowledges that they've learned to actually generate value for themselves and society at large.
Yeah, beautiful. I guess it's about investing in the next generation then, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
And like you said, an all-rounded investment, because if you give them education but they haven't got access to nourishment, because you've got to nourish your mind and your body, right? So we need an all-packed solution that invests in the future. So yeah, I would agree with you wholeheartedly there. And so then obviously you know you've got your plans to move to the US. What are your plans for the wider future? And also, how can people find out more about the current projects that you're working on? Because I know you're working on so many.
Yeah. So to go and find more about the project, it's pretty simple. You can just put my name on Google. It will be the first website, which it has my name. It's Lucas Tejedor.com, right? It's pretty easy to find.
We'll share that with the article as well, Lucas, so that people can find it.
Perfect. It will be easier because, well, I think it's hard for English-speaking people to pronounce it. Yeah, pretty hard. But my plan for the wider future is to actually be able to, like, I really think that the best way we can impact people is to create systems that incentivize innovation. And by doing that, we will create an environment that is fertile for new ideas to grow and actually be implemented, right? And I think the first step to do that is to create an ecosystem, a better ecosystem than we have actually, in places that you would not think of at first, right? Because we already have some, like in the Silicon Valley, we have China, we have some as well, but we need to create more of those ecosystems. And I would love to be a part of that, to create these ecosystems for innovation so we can breed these new ideas and validate them and actually put them to work, right? Because many of these startups actually are a good idea and they try to make it out to the market, but they don't have enough investment, or they don't find a good environment to work on, because many people think that, well, you are being a startup, then you are in Silicon Valley. No, like there are many people, like here in Brazil, I've met so many people that had so many wonderful ideas that they would love to try to execute, but they just don't have space for it, right? So it would be really good to create a space so that these people can actually breathe their ideas, or at least try to do it, right? Even if they are not as good as they first thought, they can iterate and make their idea better, or maybe use their idea to another one, and complete each other and actually be a complete solution. So I would love to be a part of that and help to construct these kinds of ecosystems all around the world, and here in Brazil especially.
Yeah, beautiful. So like an innovation center where people can collaborate together.
Exactly.
Which is beautiful. And we always say that actually at Roundtable, that collaboration is key, because you've got a lot of people that are creating smaller projects, but if they all put their minds together, then they can create something that's really magical together. So I love the idea of you being at the center of that, especially with all the knowledge that you've got. So thanks so much, Lucas, for sharing all of that with us. As I said, we'll share your website and any other links that you want to share in terms of people being able to find things. But yeah, thanks so much for speaking to me today.
Thank you.